So I am pleased to have actually, I would say a member of my family. I'm actually really good friends with her dad. I've known this individual from the time they were they were taller than me when they were 12, right? But got Claire Felix from Racing Club Cons and UCLA and what was it? Lewis Palmer and Treasure Coast Academy, was it?
The Classical Academy.
Classical Academy, right? Welcome to our podcast number 4. We're going to talk to Claire here and see how she's doing. She is in Cannes, of course, but she's not, there's no film festival going on there right now. But we're going to start this off with, I want to show you something, and I want to get your opinion of it.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Yeah. Woo! I'll send you the good stuff. Oh, goodness.
So what I want to know is, whose idea was it to actually put you in the dance? Did you want to go to dance? Did you have friends in dance, or was it your parents' idea?
I think it was kind of a combination of both. I think it was one of those things where, coming from my parents, I was going to be an athlete. So they wanted me, and I was going to be tall. So they wanted me to be coordinated and know how to move my body, and not just be that tall girl who falls over her feet all the time, is super clumsy, that kind of stuff. And so I think they put me in dance with the idea that I was going to be functional, which helped. It did, for sure. I loved it. And I think that's when, it was maybe their idea, but then I fell in love with it once I was there, and I had great friends there, and I loved the whole experience. This costume, one of my favorites for sure. Leopard headbands, we are bringing them back. I don't care what anyone's saying. This is fashion. Turtleneck bodysuit, come on, you can't beat this. This is Paris Fashion Week, hands down, first show. But yeah, I think it just ended up.
The tallest person in your dance class,
or for sure, without a doubt. Everybody else was like little fish in our shows, and then it was like, oh, big fish. Just kidding, little fish again.
So, how many years did you actually do dance?
I did dance for a long time. I started playing club at 10. Club volleyball. But until that point, I was dancing. And the only reason I even stopped dancing was because I started getting microfractures in my shins from just all the impact and doing so many different classes. And the studio I was training with wanted me to basically, I don't want to say excel, but go through the program faster and train with older girls in point shoes and this and that. And my body just wasn't developed for it yet. My bones weren't fully developed. And so my mom was like, no, we're not doing that, being a PT. And so when that happened, I was on crutches for a little while that healed, and I had to find my next passion. And I also knew I probably wasn't going to find a dance partner taller than me down the road. So
you did, this looks like jazz. So did you do ballet and did you do tap?
Yep, I did ballet, tap, and jazz. I did all 3 for 5 years, and ballet and tap for 8 total.
Wow.
Maybe.
That's a few years.
Yeah.
So
I was committed.
So what how'd you get into volleyball? I mean, it had to be your father's a basketball player, and I'm not sure. I didn't find anything if your mother was Val a basketball player or volleyball player, or was she just a student?
So my mom played volleyball. Yeah, I think
Find
from the
anything on
beginning.
her? I was looking. I couldn't find any. I couldn't find any dirt on her. So she's either got it. She's got it hidden really well. Almost, she must be like LeVar Ball. You know, they've got like little snippets of them, you know, basically playing, you know, out of you know, that are hidden somewhere. But I couldn't find any stats on her. But believe me, I looked. I looked.
She knows the right people. She's got them hiding stuff for. But no, she played volleyball in high school and thought about playing in college. Was recruited to play volleyball, tennis, and run track. But then went the PT school route, and at that time it was just more important for her to do school than it was to do sports and school. But yeah, it was definitely a basketball versus volleyball kind of household, and I did not love basketball when I was younger. Let's just say that.
Footwork. You had, I mean, that was like half the battle is the footwork especially as, how tall were you at 10? You said you.
Oh, 5, 9, 5'8", 5'9", probably.
Okay, hold
Maybe.
on. We're gonna go back in the Wayback Machine again.
Oh no, here we go.
We're going back. Just hold on here. Where is it? So were you just, I mean, did you just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm planning on, I want to play volleyball, or just was that your, was
No.
that, so who's
Um,
was it Dad's
so
idea?
no, I think if it was up to my dad, I'd be in the WNBA right now. Let's just say that. Maybe the NBA, I'd be the first female player in the league. If it was up to him. Oh yeah, look at that little cutie.
So here's your first volleyball camp.
Oh man. Whew. Yes. So this was younger. This was while I was still doing dance.
Oh, okay.
But my parents were playing in this like co-ed league for volleyball at this gym called Match Point. And so I would do like little clinics there and stuff like that and watch them play. But like I was going to be a ballerina. That was still my thing at this point. So once the injuries or like my shin fracture started coming along, they're kind of like, you gotta pick something else. And I was like, okay, well, soccer is not gonna be it. I don't like running around just back and forth for maybe getting to touch the ball. Basketball, when I was younger, I didn't like that people were throwing elbows in my face, getting all physical. Now, whew, yeah, my face, I'm gonna throw a couple elbows, break a couple noses. I mean, my dad is my dad, so I know how to do it like the best of them. But we at my school, there was this teacher who was across the way from my classroom, and she taught the grade above me. And she's like, oh, I started coaching for this club and your daughter should play volleyball. And my mom's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, okay. Because I liked it. I never had a bad experience with volleyball. And like I did basketball, it was a little traumatizing for me for a little bit. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to give your name to the people who run the club. And I was like, okay, cool. My mom was like, okay, cool. And they found me in a grocery store. They found me in King Soopers in Colorado Springs and followed me around the grocery store. And eventually came up and talked to me and were like, hey, you're going to come play volleyball for us. And I was like, I mean,
So how tall were you then? You must have been like, You must have stood out. Obviously.
For my age, yeah, I mean, I was probably 5'10" at a 5'9", 5'10" at 10, 11. So they were like, yeah, this girl, she's gonna play volleyball and that's it. She's gonna play for our club. And next thing you know, I was at the tryouts for the 13s team and made the team. Could barely serve over the net consistently, but it's okay. We progress. It's all about learning. It's a journey. Yeah. And then I ended up spending 8 years at that club. And
So
yeah, the rest is history. Now I'm in France playing volleyball professionally.
there's a little bit more than that. There's definitely a lot more than that, but we'll start with that. So you end up going to this club team, going through middle school. How'd you end up at the classical academy? I mean, that doesn't sound like a volleyball powerhouse. And looking at your stats, you were like everything there.
Yeah, so not necessarily a sports powerhouse school in general, but it was a really great school. In the Springs, it still is, but I had gone there. Yeah,
Why did you
so
go there?
why? Oh, my
Yeah.
parents told me I was going there. I actually was supposed to go to another school, and then 5 days before I started first grade, I got in because there's like a waiting list of like 4,000 kids. People put their kids on there when they're still in the womb, just in hopes that their kids get called to be in this school.
So is this like some kind of academic school, or is it just like that?
Yeah, it's like so the name, the Classical Academy, it's a classical education. And a lot of the way
Montessori school? Yeah, because I remember, weren't you in Montessori school?
Mhm.
I remember that. I don't remember a lot, but I remember you actually, when I came to visit you, actually, your parents, they were talking about you being in Montessori school.
Yes.
So,
So we went from one right into one that was like similar in style. It was a public school without being a public school, if that makes sense. It's like a charter school.
charter school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their curriculum was based in the arts and music and history, science. Everything was really good, and kids, it wasn't a huge school, but kids really excelled in school there.
So it wasn't 50 people, 50 kids in a classroom. It was small class sizes. You got to like think like critical thinking. You weren't like just in there to take a test and basically take the SAT and then try to get into a college.
Exactly. Yeah. It was even in high school, had I stayed there through graduation, there would have been 125 kids in my class, maybe.
Wow.
By the end of it. So maybe a few more than that.
That almost works against you, I would think, because you go to these like small classes, then all of a sudden you go to college and you're in a class with 400 kids and you're going, who do I talk to if I got a question?
Yeah, without a doubt, honestly. And I think that and like the access to the types of classes I had there was limiting. And so it's like what they had was great. But when I was being recruited and I was looking at all these big schools, I was like, okay, but I need to start pushing myself more. I need more AP class options. I need, when I was still considering Stanford, I was like, all right, I need to be able to take this many AP classes. And I eventually committed to UCLA really early on verbally. And
so you were at the Classical Academy when you committed to UCLA?
I was. Yes, I was. I was 15. Yeah. think I was 15 years old when I committed.
Matter of
So,
fact, hold, hold on 1 second. Hold
uh-oh. Uh-oh. These pictures, whew,
on.
me and my mama are gonna have a talk.
Hold on. Think, I think we actually even. Think. We have that picture.
Woo! Yeah.
So,
Who's that fine looking young woman?
but that's Palmer though, right? Isn't that
Yes.
Palmer?
So this is when I signed my national letter of intent, which was my
Verbally
senior
committed,
year.
but you
Yeah.
verbally committed
But I verbally committed 3 years prior.
earlier.
Yeah.
So how'd you get to Lewis Palmer? What was up with that? How?
So a lot of people at the time in the Colorado sports world thought it was because of volleyball, because I didn't want to play at the classical academy anymore because it wasn't a high enough level. It wasn't um, something like that. But for me, for other people, that's for sure a huge thing. But I was already committed to go to school where I wanted to go. So high school volleyball wasn't going to make or break me going to UCLA. I was going to UCLA. But at the same time, if I could take classes that took a little pressure off of me going into college, I really wanted to be able to set myself up for that success. And I also had gone to school with the same 120 kids, 130 kids for at least 5 years. And before that, because we all merged from 3 campuses in middle school into one. And then before that, I went to school with some of those same kids since I was in first grade. And so when you're in that environment, there's so little room to grow because everyone knows basically everything about you, about your family, about what you do in the classroom. You're not hearing different ideas or opinions, or you're just living the same thing every day. And I didn't feel like I was being pushed. And like you said, going from a small school into a big university, there's huge changes in dynamic, in atmosphere, in expectation, in everything, and learning style specifically. And so knowing what I was going into, looking at a school that had a block schedule, had longer classes, had bigger class sizes, but had a variety of courses in that AP environment that could push me, where I could still train at school, have a lifting period that counted in my courses, gave me a lot more freedom to really prepare myself for college. But at the same time, I was also in a scenario where to go to school, like to leave for UCLA after my junior year, I only needed one more English class to fill my requirements. And so had I just taken that class, I could have left. So that senior year was really just to get me a new experience, push me academically, and prepare myself for what I was going to see at UCLA. And then the volleyball just happened to be also good there.
Yeah, but they were like, weren't they a 3A? You went from like, was it single A to 3A?
I went from 3A to 4A.
3A to 4A.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a pretty good team. I mean, they're like, they've won the last four state championships for 4A.
Yeah, we took second my senior year, which was a real hard blow. But then they won consecutively the next 5 years, I think 4 or 5 years.
You mean you had to leave for them to win?
I don't want to say that.
Of course, I said it for you.
But I mean, that's how it looks.
Hey, perception is perception, right?
Perception is everything. Either that or we changed the view and they needed me to go there to get them in that spotlight so that then they could be successful down the road.
You were the player of the year though that year, weren't you?
I was not actually. I was player of the year the year before, either my sophomore or junior season. I was player of the year.
Okay. But you
And
were
then,
still like all state.
yeah.
You were still all state. I mean, you were pretty much all state for what, the 4 years you were in high school?
Mhm.
And you were player of the year for in 3A for 1 year.
Mhm.
So you lived in Colorado Springs, right? So the Olympic training facilities there. So I know you had to have you had to be on the radar for the Olympics for Olympic volleyball. What about that? How'd that come about?
So when I was younger, I was at the training center, doing camps and stuff like that with the pipeline, the high performance pipeline that leads into the national team. And I was on a couple teams growing up. But at the same time, our club used to call it the most expensive t-shirt you'll ever pay for, because you go to these tryouts with thousands and thousands and thousands of girls all over the country, really for most people just to walk away with a t-shirt. And I was lucky enough not to be one of those people. But at the same time, it was when junior national team stuff came up, it was during the only break I had during the year, because the rest of the time I went high school club, and club went through middle of summer, and then you do high performance national team, and then you start it all over again. And it's just this big cycle with no breaks, no anything. And at one point, I think around 16, I just kind of took a step back from it and just really needed that break for my body, my mind, all of it, in order to get ready for what I was going to do at the next level.
So you just backed away from, and you never had any aspirations of actually playing in the Olympics? I'm sure your parents did.
I wouldn't say that I backed away from my aspirations of playing in the Olympics, but I backed away from what can be super political system that can kind of take the passion out of young players' lives for volleyball.
I get it.
And
You're trying to, you've been told all these years that if you work hard and you put your best effort into everything will work out. You let the chips fall where it may. But there are times when the politics of who knows who basically takes over, and it's not necessarily the best players. It's the players that are plugged into the system. I get it.
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like, obviously I'm always working as much as I can. I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to be one of the best players in the world. And I know I'm a great player, but I know I still have things that I need to get better at in order to even reach that next level. And so, now I think I'm in a different mindset. I'm in a different place. I have the ability to go home and rest my body during the summers and stuff like that. So to get national team calls now, it's a little different. But at the same time, at 26, I'm already on the older side of that. So I also know that that's
well, what's old what's old for a national level volleyball player on the Olympic team?
I think it depends on the country you look at, honestly.
Well, obviously it's us.
Yeah. For us, I mean, I feel like they're kind of in this phasing out like space going into Tokyo. And so I think for some, it's going to be their last Olympics, but it's also going to be their third or fourth. And so they've played, 16 years with the national team now. And some of them started at 20, some of them started at 18. And so it's just.
So that must make them somewhere in their 30s.
Yeah. And then this new group is my age, a little older, and then some even younger. But at the same time, with this new phase that's coming in, volleyball is also changing around the world. It's not the same style it used to be. And players aren't the same style they used to be. And so it'll be really interesting to see what happens with this new generation that's coming in to national teams around the world, because it's not just us, it's Italy, it's Russia, it's Turkey, it's Brazil, it's Poland, it's Germany, it's the Netherlands. Like there's just a different style of player leaving the game and a new style coming in.
Well, if it's anything like basketball, I mean, basketball from when I played till now, I mean, first of all, the players are probably 6 inches taller. And, they're probably 25 pounds heavier. Their training is actually a lot more sophisticated. So the game is more, I mean, in a nutshell, was the NBA game, that one game where, they get a breakaway, right? And, they're down by two, they get a breakaway fast break, and everybody runs out to the 3-point line instead of like going out for a going in for the layup to tie the game so that they can get to overtime. So what's the differences in volleyball? I mean, volleyball is always like a set power game, set, smash, block.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to find something kind of similar in comparison to how basketball is now really like a behind the 3-point line game. I mean, people are taking shots behind the half court. So now it's just really about range shooting. But I mean, I think it's interesting, and it's hard to say what the biggest differences are going into our national team, because I haven't played in the States in 5 years or 4 years now. And I've been lucky enough to play on 3 different continents. But like in Europe, the game right now is just really fast, but not in every country. In some countries it's high, and they rely on big banger players who are my height, taller, and just crush balls. But then you go to South America and everything is on a one tempo game. The pins are in the air with the same time, the middles are in the air as the same time, the opposites in the air, and everyone's ready to attack at the same time until you're in high ball. And so as a middle, like you're constantly just like pin to pin to pin to pin. And you're not guessing, but you have to speed up your ability to read the game to a level that I never saw in the States. There was never a team I played against that had that kind of offense that was that fast.
They're basically trying to counteract the power game.
They are.
Trying to
but with people who are big.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the Maginot line offense, where basically they've got these 6'6", 6'7" girls out there, and they got to figure out a way to get around them. So the best way to get them is to make them move.
Exactly.
Get them out of position and then hit around them.
Yep.
So, and you're one of those. But you've got good footwork from ballet.
Nice and speedy. We're all over the place.
So you get to UCLA, and what's the first thing that you realize when you get to UCLA, as opposed to from being like this all world player in Colorado and playing a national team? How the speed of the game, the size of the players, the regimen of being an actual Division I college athlete. What was how did you handle that?
Um,
You played. I know you
I
played.
did.
You
I
played
did.
freshman year. You played every game.
Yeah. So I mean, I was a starter all 4 years. I actually played a different position my freshman year. I got hurt at Junior Olympics that year. I partially tore my patellar tendon in my left knee. And so my ability to move laterally was drastically affected because we decided we were going to do rehab to get it back. And so my freshman year, I had 2 knee braces on, one that stayed on my knee, one that wrapped around my hip, just so that I could be on the court and play. So I played opposite that year. And it was an adjustment. I mean, I played opposite my senior year of club as well, because we had a middle who was still in the process of being recruited at that time. And I had already played an 18s year. I played 18s twice. And so for me, that last year wasn't a year I needed. It was more of a year I could use to expand my skill set, and give other people the opportunity to still show theirs. And so I played opposite that year. So I was lucky enough to go into school with that experience behind me, even though getting hurt, and still be able to step into that role. And we ended up running a 6.2 for most of that season, until my knee was better. And then I flung my knee brace off. I said, I'm playing middle. Thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk. But I'm going back.
Did you do a TED? Have you done a TED Talk?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say I've done a TED Talk. So
Oh,
yeah,
whoa.
years
Okay.
ago, 2010, TEDx. Look it up. It's
Oh
on.
my gosh. Okay, big time. I should be
Online.
interviewing you.
Well, you got to have some kind of like, I stay low key.
Fly under the radar. Make
There
sure
you
no
go.
one's
So you get to UCLA, and now you're like you're swimming with the other sharks now. So
Yeah, it's a it's an adventure at every level and every place you go to. It's
why UCLA instead of USC? You're a Southern Cal. You're a Southern Cal girl. So I mean, your parents are Southern Cal. So
yeah, I mean, if you can ask my grandpa, he'll tell you that's probably the biggest mistake I've ever made, was not going to SC. But I mean,
as a granddaughter, but you made a mistake.
it was touch and go there for a while. I didn't know if on game day he was going to wear blue and gold, or if he was going to be wearing cardinal and gold. And I was like, come on. But no, I was born and raised on SC football for sure, hands down. I going into the recruiting process, I had a stack of shirts, stack of SC gear that I wore every game day. I had shirts that were just cardinal and gold that I wore on game days. Used to go over to my grandparents' house, watch football. And of course, they got all the SC stuff in their basement. And on game day, the blankets come out and the scarves come out and all the stuff comes out. And my great grandpa went to film school at SC. And so, I mean, if you ask anyone, that's where I was supposed to go to school. But I didn't fall in love with it like I did UCLA. And Um, it sounds crazy because everyone's like, oh, you have to make a pros and cons list, blah, 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 when you're getting recruited. And yeah, it's helpful. But at the same time, the feeling I had when I walked on that UCLA campus, I knew I was supposed to be there. And I'm not going to say my journey there was easy by any means. It wasn't. But it made me into the person I was, or I am today. And so that feeling I had at 14 years old, when I was in the process of making those decisions,
That's really funny that you say that, because whenever I'm talking to my kids, about, schools and, making choices, when they have multiple schools, I always tell them to do that, to do the pros and cons list. Write your schools out, right? Write pros, cons, do they have your major? How good of a team do they have? Are you going to play, right? Are you going to play in position, right? Do you like the school? Do you like the community, right? Are you going to have a social life? All these things, basically are, especially for you kids now, is it's something that you have to consider, because it's the last thing is, you don't want to go someplace and realize, that you're out in the middle of BFE and, there's nothing to do, and except play basketball or, your sport. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I selected poly.
Yeah.
Because it was out in the middle of nowhere, and I knew how I was. So I didn't want a bunch of distractions. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to play basketball, and we could have a little social life. But I knew if I was going to be in the big city, I just wasn't going to be. I probably wouldn't have made it. So, it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
So you get there, you get to your senior year, and you're thinking, all right. Are you thinking you're just going to graduate, or are you thinking you have a chance to play professionally?
So really early on in my career, I actually, at UCLA, I knew I wanted to try and go play pro. I didn't necessarily know like how it worked or how attainable it was going to be or what my life was going to look like. But when I had to switch majors my junior year, for marine biology, to what I finished with was sociology. I knew I wasn't going to have to go into a post-grad program right away with that. And so it gave me more opportunity to go play pro. That wasn't why I switched majors, but it ended up working out that way. And so I had actually, even though I switched my curriculum, I had planned to graduate in December of my senior year. So right after our season. And I was going to take 2 classes online, go overseas and play half season just to kind of get warmed up and then go play a full season. Things didn't work out that way. It's okay. Everything works out for a reason. I believe that. But I wasn't really fully healthy yet, again, from my shoulder surgery. That senior year was a huge battle for me after basically having the bare minimum recovery and getting cleared, because I was in my mind, I was going to play my senior season. And
so hold on, wait. The knee and then the shoulder. Where did that come from? I didn't hear of anything. When did you rip your shoulder? Did you tear your rotator cuff?
So I had shoulder pain starting probably midway through my freshman year. And it kind of just like got pushed to the side, like, oh, it's not a big deal. Your knees hurt, so your shoulder can't hurt too. And I was like, I mean, they both hurt, but that's okay too. My knee's my focus, like that's what I've got a brace on. So like that has to go away. And basically after 2 years of it just getting absolutely destroyed and getting to the point where I couldn't even lift my arm above my head. Yeah. zero of it. Didn't brush my teeth in the morning. Horrible. I got a scan done and they injected it to do the ink and all of that. And my labrum was like 80% torn at that point.
There you go.
And I was 19 years old, 20 years old.
So completely, was it separated from your scapula? Like usually, because the labrum, your humerus sits inside your labrum, like that. So usually what happens is the labrum becomes detached from your shoulder blade, from your shoulder. So basically, or from your scapula. So it basically comes off and they have to actually like tack it back into place. It's like a donut of cartilage.
Yeah. So from my understanding, what happened is basically where my humerus was hitting it, it actually just ripped it straight down through the middle. And so when that happened, our surgeon was like, our ortho was like, if I was your kid, what would you do? And like, because I'm not going back into this coach's office and having a conversation of like, oh, well, maybe, like, what would you do? And she said, I'll clear my schedule for next week because we are going into spring break. It'll be a 3-month recovery. You'll be back for your season. No problem. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, I'm having surgery. Like I'm already mentally like preparing for it. Like I'm a mess, but at the same time, I've been in so much pain for so long that I couldn't really picture anything else other than having surgery. And so I go to the coach's office, I tell them what they said, and they said, you're not having surgery. They refused me to have surgery.
What?
And yeah. And me, I was in tears, and I'm not someone who liked to cry in the coach's office. I was not one of those players. But yeah, they were basically like, we're not going to extend your scholarship. You're not going to get a redshirt year if you're not back. Like, we don't have room for you if you have to stay 5. And I said, well, I don't need to stay 5. I can leave after if I have to. I can go somewhere for my 5th year if you don't have room for me here, but blah, blah, blah. Like, basically they were like, you're not having surgery. This is going to be your All-American year. So you have to play it. And probably one of the most messed up things that happened to me in college. And so I ended up
How'd you get through the year? Did they have to inject it every week? Did you actually have to do that or what?
So I didn't want anything injected. I didn't want cortisone. I didn't want any of it. I didn't want any steroid shots going to my shoulder. And so basically over that summer, from that spring break through summer into fall, I just got as strong as possible. I stayed in LA. I took classes on campus, and I was in the weight room 2-3 hours a day, just getting in the best shape possible so that I could make it through that season with a torn labrum. And it's probably the strongest I've been in my life, honestly, coming out of that summer. But once that season started, I didn't have the capacity in my shoulder to work like that and play volleyball as much as we did. And so by the end of season, they were imaging it as we went through, checking it, stuff like that. And when we were in playoffs that year, I remember the last match we played, and I was in physio that morning for almost 4.5 hours just to make sure I could lift my arm above my head on my own to play that match.
Oh my God.
And so mentally and physically, that just took a huge toll on me. And then I ended up having surgery 3 days after that. My mom flew out and they were like, okay, we're going to fix it, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be quick, an hour in, out, boom, bam. I was like, okay, great. 3-month recovery. And then I have more time before the season, my senior season. And I was like, but if you find anything in there, you need to fix everything. And they're like, okay, for sure. I love my ortho. She's great. One of my favorite people ever. She's great lady, Dr. Haim. And I didn't come out after an hour. And my mom started freaking out because it was 2 hours, 3 hours,
Yeah.
3.5 hours.
All the discovery.
All the discovery. And 4.5 hours later, I came out of surgery, and they were like, we got to talk. And I was like, uh-oh. And my shoulder, like some of the, there's no pain like shoulder surgery. But she was basically like, we went in, your labrum was this far, 0.1% from being completely gone, just absolutely shredded in every way. Your supraspinatus was torn completely, like 0.1% from everything in your biceps tendon was detached. Like had you played another match, like your shoulder would physically not have been able to make it, basically. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what does this mean for me? You know what I mean? Like I went from having something with a short recovery to now something that takes most people a year and a half to recover from. And I'm trying to play a season in 8 months. And so it was a really hard journey, physically and mentally. It really was. It took a really big toll on me.
I'm really surprised that, especially like with sports like rotational sports like volleyball, like baseball, like tennis, that especially with all the money that they have and the resources that they have, that they don't do, you know, some type of video analysis of your arm swing, just to look to see, you know, where you're striking the ball at. Because if you're striking it back here, right, everything is getting torn. You know, when you're getting on top of it, right, and you can tell when you hit the ball correctly, right, it almost feels like you're going through butter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you hit it back and you're back a little bit too far, right, that's when you feel everything like,
yeah.
So I'm surprised that they didn't do that at some point with you, you know, that they don't do that with, I'm sure they do it with higher level athletes, just so that they get, you know, get kind of grooved in with that. But that would have been the first thing I would have done. So you make it, you grind through that year. You're a Felix, so I know you're tough. So your dad is one of the toughest guys I know, right?
I'm tougher than him, so whew,
he was like, I could tell you, we used to have some battles. When I was playing and he was my my graduate assistant, right? He would like take me out and we would actually like play, and I'd say, you know, he'd give me a couple elbows. He was definitely the king of the elbows, and he would rough me up a little bit, and I'd like, all right, let's go. Come on, let's go. You know, and he was a couple of years older, but he was a tough guy, you know, and
Yeah.
he didn't mind hitting you. So
no, on the basketball court, that man taught me how to get away with any kind of shot you had to do to get out of a tough situation. Put people in their place.
Yeah. So let's go back to we're gonna go back to the Wayback Machine again.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. We are, where is it?
Oh yeah. Woo!
So I'm assuming this is your first professional experiences at Durham University through
Yes.
This is the first year after UCLA.
It is. Yep. When I wasn't healthy enough, wasn't in the right mindset, Wasn't able to class-wise be able to leave in December. I stayed that spring, had a great spring. I recommend everyone, they don't leave college early. Enjoy your senior spring.
There
You can
go.
train, you can do whatever you want. But your senior spring is going to be some of the best memories you make in college. So enjoy it. And then after that, I was kind of like, do I want to play? Do I just want to go to grad school? Thought about going to SC grad school. I was like, should I go play beach like everybody else does from UCLA? They play indoor at UCLA and then go to beach for a 5th year at SC. And I was like, no, I can always come back to grad school. I'm gonna go play. And some of the opportunities I had to play weren't opportunities that I could take knowing that I wasn't fully healthy, because what would have been demanded of me was something that I physically, my shoulder couldn't handle. It didn't have the capacity to do what they needed me to do. And so I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I just like was working all summer to try and get healthy, figure out what I was going to do. And this opportunity presented itself through one of my friends who was going to coach the men's team. And he's like, you should go. Like, it'll be good for you. You can get your master's out of the way and then go play a pro season after that. That year ended up hurting my pro career a little bit because I had to start back over at ground absolute zero, which was really hard for me. But at the same time,
like physically you had to start from ground zero, or mentally you had to start from ground zero. I mean, you still had your reputation. You had your stats from UCLA, but you know, you had this shoulder issue that you needed to address.
Yeah. So both, I would say, physically and mentally, because the year before my shoulder surgery, I was an All-American. And then my senior year, I was on track to be an All-American again. And then that's another story. Even with my physical condition, it was just not how that team was going to work out. But when I took that year off going to England, even though I was playing, I was coaching, I was training every day, the pro world doesn't recognize England as a pro league. And it's semi-pro for sure, but everyone's going to school. There's no real true, just like professional players. And so it's a great opportunity to go do something after college. But it does set you back in the pro world to make that stop.
That's basically what I did. I graduated from Poly and went directly to England and played in there. That was actually a professional league. But so where is Durham? I never even heard of Durham.
Durham is in the northeast, kind of near the coast. It's like 25 minutes from the coast.
Sunderland?
I think it's more north.
Like almost into Scotland, because Sunderland is pretty close to Scotland.
I would have to look at a map to truly like, but it isn't that far from Scotland.
It was cold though, right?
It was cold, sleet, rain, snow, and we're by the coast. It was by Newcastle. I don't know if you know where Newcastle is.
I know where Newcastle is.
Okay.
We used to play all up and down from Sunderland all the way down to Southampton.
Okay.
Every place in between. So I'm pretty familiar with the state. So how'd you like living there?
I really liked the experience overall. I think it was a lot to go to grad school full time and do a 1-year master's and then coach the professional team, as well as be an assistant for the men's team and the assistant for the second and third women's teams. And then live in a house with 17 people from all over the world was a lot. It was crazy. but it was a really great experience, and it really taught me a lot about myself and who I wanted to be as a coach, who I wanted to be as a player, where my priorities were, where they weren't. And really, for the first time, like, yes, LA is a melting pot, but at the same time, like, really live with people from all over the world and see how different mindsets work and think and interact, honestly, because it's not always easy, and just see how the differences in culture really came to play.
Did you live at one of like the sports centers? Because they used to have like throughout the country, they had different like they called them sports centers, which were like training facilities for like their Olympic athletes and their world class athletes. Like I lived at one of their sports centers. So when you say you live with 17 people, that was like and that sounds like one of the sports center type of environment, which probably was a good thing for you. Probably gave you a chance to kind of like decompress and actually, after, being a Division I athlete, even back then, I mean, there's a lot of discipline and a lot of things that go along with being, it's a job, but between the training, making sure that you're getting in your classwork because you got to maintain that 2.5, you're traveling, so there's weeks where you're not, you're playing on the road, so that's a lot to unpack. And all of a sudden you get to be up in England and basically, it's like, and the English aren't, they're not like, it's not like LA, especially up there. It's pretty laid back, they're having pints after the matches, and they're singing songs, it's kind of, for you, it probably was like a little bit of, the hell is what's going on here? This isn't like the fast pace that I'm used to. These people, they just like to play, so
For sure. It was definitely, if I thought there was going to be a culture shock from high school to college to England was a culture shock beyond belief. I mean, I remember my first day, I walked into the city for something. And by city, I mean, like, not a city. There's 50,000 people in this county. And I walked by the pub and this man was outside eating breakfast. And I looked over and I was like, oh, I wonder what they have. And has a plate of eggs filled with eggs and is drinking a pint, smoking a cigarette, reading the paper. And 5 other men are coming out to join him with the exact same thing. And I was like, it is 7 a.m. and this man is having a pint of beer. I am not in America anymore. I don't know what's going on. But it was definitely something I had to adapt to, and I had to adapt fast. I got thrown into the head coach role of the team when I got there. And I came later than everyone else because it took me a while to make the decision to go do that instead of just go play pro. And, but yeah, it was a big adjustment because for our team, we didn't have a lot of people from England. We had a lot of people from other countries or from the States, specifically with the women's volleyball team. And I was one of the youngest. And so I was coaching people older than me for the first time. And people my age, people younger than me, people from different backgrounds, coming from the university I did versus the universities they did. And managing people who hadn't played in 5 years and came to grad school for one more time around on the court. And so it was really, and then going to class full time from 9 to 6 on Tuesdays, and then other classes sporadically through that. And so it was a big adjustment. They were more laid back. There wasn't the attention to physio or recovery or eating or mentality that I was used to. And if you were going to lift weights, you were going to lift like a rugby player. And I was like, whoo, I'm not meant to be built like a rugby player. I'm going to tell you that right now. And so it was an adjustment for sure. People saw it as grad school. And so they went out and partied all the time, and not just party, but partied hard. And there was room for that, but it was different than my college experience while I was actually playing. It was one thing in off season to go do stuff, go be wild, go do whatever you're going to do. But for me in season, I was always pretty by the book. And so then to be in that coaching role and a playing role and in grad school, and like knowing all these people can go do what they want, really, as long as it's not affecting what's in the gym, was a big thing.
I remember my first day there, right? I'm coming off a jet lag, and I'm asking, like, I meet a couple of my teammates, and I'm asking them, hey, where's the gym at? Where can we go lift, right? Because I'm like thinking, this is my opportunity. I gotta like really get myself squared away here, right? And so just like you, half my team is actually they had done some really crazy stuff. They had paid all this money for these guys like the year before, and they didn't do so well. So they got rid of all these guys and brought up like half of their junior team to the first division. So I'm playing with guys that have never played professionally before, right? And it's me. It's another guy who actually played in Belgium, and we had two guys that actually were, had been playing in the English Professional League for years. They were actually on the English national team, and a dual guy. So I get with one of the guys that's basically, that's basically one of the junior guys that they brought up that's still in college. And I ask him where the gym is, right? And he goes, "Hey, don't worry about that, man. We're going to a rugby party. You're going with us." So I wound up going to a freaking rugby party, like my first night there. And that was like you said, there's no, like, the English really know how to party. They may not play basketball really well. They may not play volleyball really well, but they know how to throw a party, so had to get out of that mindset, because it's easy to kind of get in there and forget about what you're there to do. So you get through that, you get through Durham, you get there, and you get through your graduate degree. And let's go back into the Wayback Machine.
Oh, the Wayback Machine. Woo!
Hey, the Wayback Machine goes way, way back. And we got
oh yeah. Woo!
So your next stop was Brazil, right?
Finland and then Brazil.
And this is Finland?
This is Finland.
This is Finland.
Yeah.
So how'd you like this? This was more your liking, I would take it.
Finland was a really great opportunity for me to enter the professional world in Europe after taking a year off.
I hate those courts though. Those courts were, oh
my gosh. We
played on courts like that in those sports centers in England. We want to talk about like knee wreckers, ankle wreckers, those old multi-purpose courts that were just like, they're just tile.
Yep, they are. It's just basically colored concrete that they're like, yeah, this is great for athletic activities.
Exactly.
Horrible. And something I still haven't even escaped now here in France, honestly. But yes, Finland, the court's
like
horrible.
This looks like one of your dance pictures.
Oh my goodness.
You got everybody there is like a midget.
They are. It is. It's little fish, big fish, little fish again. I don't know what happened. It was supposed to get better as I got older, and it just didn't. No, this was a good year. It was really challenging. Finnish winters are no joke. It's very cold. There's a lot of ice. No car. We had a bike.
You picked
I
a
don't know
lot
if you've
for a Southern California girl. You picked a lot of like cold places.
Yeah, not my best choice from that standpoint. I'm a warm place person. After growing up in Colorado, warm place person, for sure. I don't know if you've ever tried to ride a bike through 2.5 feet of snow to practice.
No.
In a blizzard.
I'd walk, but I've walked a
But
lot of snow, but never tried to ride a bike through snow.
yeah, I attempted it one day. Never did it again after that. I walked everywhere.
Not very successful, huh? Especially without snow tires.
Yeah, we were cruising on a beach cruiser.
Oh my God. Are you crazy?
I mean, that's what the club gave us. And I was like, all right, if I got wheels and it's going to be the difference between me getting there in 6 minutes and the difference between me getting there in 20 in the snow, I'm going to find a way to get there in 6. Now we went with 20 for the rest of the season.
Right. It took you 25.
Show up, face burnt, like ice burns on the face just from the wind whacking you. Oh man. And my teammate, my roommate rode her bike every day and I would see her falling off of it on the way to the gym. And I was like, you know what? We are just different people. This is not my vibe, but I respect your journey. I hope you make it there in one piece. But yeah, it was a good year. It was a year I was glad when it came to an end. I'm really grateful for that club for giving me the opportunity there. But at the same time, when we parted ways, it was time for me to part ways and go be where I knew I needed to be. Maybe the rest of the pro world didn't agree with me at that time, even my agent, but that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in Brazil. I wanted to be in one of the best leagues in the world. And it's what ended up happening. I basically told him I'm willing to play in 5 countries. So find me a contract in one of those 5 countries. And
so you wound up in just going to Brazil to.
yes.
Let's see.
Uh-oh.
Let's see.
Kind of crazy pictures you got from this one.
I got all kinds of crazy pictures. I got everything here. Everything. I just need to find them. Got. It's not it. Where is it? I'm not gonna go. We're not gonna go there yet.
Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna save that one. I had one good one. This has to be your. This has to be it.
Nope, this one's still Finland.
That's still Finland?
Yep.
All right. And I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to go back. You're gonna have to give me a chance to find it. So we go to Brazil.
Yes.
And how'd you like playing in Brazil?
One of the best experiences in my entire life. It's at first, I think coming in like I had a little, I don't want to say self-doubt, but like at the same time, like there's so many people telling me like, oh, she can't play there. She was just in Finland. She was in England, blah, 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 blah. But I also knew who I was as a player and the choices I made, which led me to those destinations. And so I think once I kind of got out of that mindset of, oh, people don't think I should be here. And it was like, I don't care what people think. I should be here. I know I should be here. I've worked my entire life to be here. Like, I want to play with the best. I want to play against the best. It's a really cool experience when you get to walk on the court and play against two-time Olympic gold medalists, play with gold medalists, and constantly be pushed by some of the best players in the world in one of the best leagues in the world. And I was really, really grateful for the coach who gave me that opportunity. Duda, he's a great, I won't even just say friend, he's family to me. That whole staff was family to me. And yeah, there it is. Hi, Brazil. All the memes.
How close were you with your teammates here?
There was probably, I think I was good with everyone on the team. We weren't all best friends. Part of it is the language barrier. Not a ton of people on my team spoke English when I got there.
Portuguese?
So, yes. And so I had a couple girls on the team who weren't on the team, but they were with the team. They were injured, and so they spoke English. And there was one girl on the team that spoke fluent English. She studied in the States. She was young. She studied in the States for a year and came back to Brazil to play. And then our head coach spoke a little English. Our strength coach spoke English, or enough English. Even though he tells me now that it's not as good as it used to be. When I was giving him a hard time every day, I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Gotta start practicing. But I walked out of Brazil with some of my best friends for life. And it's a place that I fell in love with volleyball again, and fell in love with competing at the highest level again, and just remembered not who I was, but who I wanted to become again. And oh yeah, woo! Look at that. Look at all those fans. Oh, what a time to be alive that was, when fans could still come. But yeah, it's a place that I will always call home, and holds a really, really special place in my heart, and is filled with some really, truly incredible people.
So tell me about this.
So this is actually a podcast I did this last summer with this really, really cool guy who reached out to me on Instagram, or not Instagram, on LinkedIn, who we connected. And they've created a really great program to talk with professional athletes, college athletes, retired athletes, coaches, to hear about their journey and some of the things they went through, whether it was injury or mental health, or like mind body shaming and mental health, eating disorders, academics, all kinds of different things. And each one's kind of like a feature on one specific thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's where this one came from.
So have you had issues with body image shaming or mental health?
I think during my shoulder surgery, it was a really, really hard time for me in general. I mean, going to UCLA, we'll start here. Going to UCLA, you know what you're getting into from the standpoint of the expectations of what that team has looked like throughout history.
A lot of
And
tradition.
I'm sorry.
A lot of tradition.
Yeah, a lot of tradition, a lot of very slim girls who fit that Southern California mold. And I wasn't fat by any means, but being told you're not skinny enough, being told you're not this, being told you're not that, being told all the time. And for a long time, I made it through like, okay, I heard it, but it was kind of in one ear, one out the other. And then when my surgery rolled around, I went from a year where I was in really incredible shape. I was at a really high point in my game, to being in a sling for 2.5 months, to not being able to exercise for 5 months, to losing a huge portion of my muscle mass, and trying to regain it and not having any support, what didn't feel like any support from our staff or my teammates, in regards to like what I was going through physically. Because even though other people had surgery, they were all getting cleared in 3 months. And I wasn't back in the gym, and I was doing my therapy during that gym time. When I started coming back and taking reps, I wasn't jumping as high, obviously. I didn't have the power I used to have. I was slow. All of those things. And I knew why. I knew that, okay, in 3 months, you can't gain all of those things back like this. It's going to take time. But I remember one of the worst days was walking in to a nutritionist meeting, because during my surgery, I met with a nutritionist. We have nutritionists all the time at UCLA. We have whatever. They set up stuff for you so that you can succeed. And I remember walking in, and she said something to me about getting extra workouts in. And I was just like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, I get it. I need to get back, blah, blah, blah. And then she said something, and it basically said the coaching staff thinks you're too fat to play volleyball.
Yeah.
And this is coming from the same people who refused to let me have surgery when it was going to be a quicker fix. And now, without the support, without anything, like, I was the only person who didn't get a message after my surgery to say, hey, hope everything went well. Can't wait to see you back in the gym, of the 3-4 people who had surgery that at the same time. And so I knew that support wasn't there. I knew they didn't want me around longer than I was going to be there. And it was really a really hard thing for me to deal with, because now it wasn't even just that. It was, I'm doing everything in my power to be back for this season, and you're telling my nutritionist that I'm too fat to play volleyball, and I won't look good in the uniform, and I won't whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. I know I don't look like I used to, but at the same time, it was kind of impossible to, you know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily attainable. Mentally, I was already kind of down in the dumps. And then hearing that, I just broke down. And like, of course, there was a girl on our team at one point who used to count calories for everyone on the team and let them know that if they ate that, they were going to get fat. And it was never about being healthy. It was, you're going to be fat, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. And it was a really harsh environment to be in, because then you're looking at pictures of yourself and you're like, wow, am I fat? Am I this? And it's like, no, your body's doing what it has to right now to get you back. Yes. Are you heavier? For sure. Do you not have as much muscle mass? No, you don't. But look how far you've come from not being able to move your arm to now being able to lift it above your head again, to being able to throw a ball again, to being able to take 15 swings today, to being able to jump and do blocking drills, to be able to serve again, to be able to go to practice with the team and be in practice without fear. And so it was one of those things where my whole senior year, we ended up having this thing with, there was a group of girls on the team who weren't this big, and weren't fat, but we called ourselves the Thick Girls Club, and that didn't go over very well. And basically we got punished for that. And we were on a trip in Hawaii, and there's this place called, what is it? It's not Stan's. Maybe it is Stan's. Either that's the place in Westwood. I might be messing that one up, but there's this place that everyone gets donuts from when we're in Hawaii. And we're like, oh, if we win, can we stop and get some after the game? And the person driving, our assistant coach driving the van, just basically turned around and says, no, you guys aren't allowed to have any. And it just happened to be the thicker girls on the team. And so someone made a comment about that, like, oh, because it's the Thick Girls Club, we don't get donuts because we're not this big. And it turned into this whole thing about how we're not allowed to call ourselves the Thick Girls Club. We can't accept the way we look. We have to be thinner. We have to whatever. And we can't eat things that the skinnier girls can because we're thicker. And it was really horrible, honestly, for mental health. It was horrible for physical health. It was horrible for all of it, because it became you can't do this, you can't have this, you have to think this way, you have to whatever. But there was no comparison to what was happening in the weight room. And there was no comparison to any of that. And so one season we had power bands on our arms, and basically it showed where you ranked on the team on the TVs, based on how much you were pushing, how much weight you had on the bar, and all of that. And if you weren't above the line, that means you weren't pushing hard enough. And if you were above the top line, it means you were in the top percent. And there was only one or two things that I was not in that top percent. And so when they were telling me this, I was just basically like, I get I'm not thin in your mind, but at the same time, I'm outperforming in the weight room. So you telling me I'm fat is you not understanding what a healthy body is just by looking at one. And that whole time I was getting extra workouts in, I was doing whatever I could just to feel accepted by our coaching staff and the team. But at the same time, I was like, why would I want to be accepted by people who think this way about me?
How'd you get through that? How'd you get through all that? How'd you?
Honestly, I look back sometimes and I don't really know. I had a really great support group of guys on the football team who knew how hard I worked, who saw how hard I worked, who had just like forget them kind of mentality. But sometimes that's hard. I had a good group of friends from my classes. I had my family in Southern California. I had my mom and my dad and my grandparents, obviously. And then I actually, at the time, I was dating someone and who went to Northridge. Classic Matador. And having him and his family was like a really good, like, I don't want to say escape, but ability to get away from the negative energy that surrounded my senior year. And so it really, it made me shift, I think, how I look at myself, how I accept myself, how I wasn't just covering stuff up anymore. I was truly looking at myself and whether or not things didn't bother me. And I let things bother me when I needed to, and I wasn't just trying to put a band-aid over things. But at the same time, I also knew what those people were saying told me a lot more about them than it did about me, because when I stepped on the court, it wasn't affecting my volleyball capabilities. And so that just told me that they had a problem with the way I looked in their uniform at that school. And that was unfortunate because my play no longer just spoke for itself. It mattered more what I looked like than it did how good of a volleyball player I was. And so really just kind of focusing on myself more so than focusing on things I couldn't control. I was kind of a hothead my senior year, I'm not going to lie. Took a little bit out in that sense.
Well, that would be a lot like your dad.
Yeah. They started putting a whistle noise over when I spoke as I was cheering and things like that, because sometimes it wasn't always the cleanest of things.
A little bit of emotion, a little bit of fire there.
A lot of emotion, a lot of fire. My mom still sends me clips from one game when we played SC. Actually, it was senior night, and we won in 5. And there's one point where they obviously can't change what your mouth is saying, but they can change what's going over it. And I basically just turned around after a really big point and just screamed, "This is my effing house." And I think that was just kind of my mood for senior year.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
You just brought something back to me here. Brought something back. Let's see, where are we? Right there.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. That's classic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a vibe. That's a whole vibe right there.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So there's Lewis Palmer, there's UCLA, there's an 8 clap right there.
There is full transfer, just one to the other. One was a shy girl, one crazy, just absolutely crazy.
So you pretty much over all that now? I mean, is it something that you learned how to deal with? I mean, we all have our issues with, I mean, even me, you talk about, well, my coach never said anything. I mean, he said things, but I didn't really care. I remember I showed up to my senior year. I was 25 pounds over. I remember Wheeler coming in and saying I had a pretty good summer that year. I was supposed to stay in San Luis Obispo. My senior year, I'm coming in, right? And I'm thinking I'm going to stay here. I'm going to lift weights. Get with Mark. I'm going to work on my jumper. I'm going to I'm going to work with Keith on my on my handles, and we're gonna rock it. We're gonna rock it. We're going back to the national championship again, right? Next thing I know, I get a call from my mother, and she goes, I've got a job for you on Wall Street. You're coming home. What? I'm coming home. 21-year-old, right? How am I going to tell my mother no, right? So I go home and can't get in the gym, can't get to play because I'm working all these hours, right? So I show back up to Poly, 225, right? I played at 200, right? And Wheels is like incensed. 225. How the hell are you gonna play for me? Are you going out for football? So talk about extra work. Like, who do you think was out there with me on the track, right? For my extra 200s and extra quarter miles? Your dad. making sure I did all of them, every last one of them. So I would actually work out with the team, and then he had me out there actually running on my own. So, but I never had that issue. But I mean, you seem like I would have never thought any of that, from you. You seem really well adjusted by it. So I imagine that it's not so much in the forefront for you anymore. So
Yeah.
come to terms with it.
It's definitely something, like I said, before my shoulder surgery, it was something that I really was just kind of like, people are going to say what they're going to say. Like, but after, with not really knowing if I could return to volleyball in the same way, in the same capacity, and then having all of that on top of it was really hard. And then I think, honestly, really what changed is like, who do I want to be? I'm not going to be that person who was an All-American last season. I'm not going to be that player again because I don't have that shoulder. I don't have that mindset anymore. I have this new experience under my belt. And so it's like, who am I going to be now? What kind of player can I be now with a new shoulder, with this?
It's the doubt that creeps into us with every injury.
It is.
You really never know. I mean, I thought, when I tore up my knee, I wasn't a competitive athlete, but when I tore my knee, I ruptured my quad tendon, right? And I'm thinking, I'm 50 years old, do I really need to be back out there again? But that mindset, you have a certain mindset that you're not going to let yourself be beaten by that.
Yeah.
So you get out there and you go through the physical therapy, you go through the pain, but the doubts are still there. The first steps that you take, the first time you hit that ball, you got to throw the ball, at physical therapy, right? And you feel all those little, all that scar tissue go through your shoulder.
Yeah.
And you wonder if you can do it. And then the next day you come out again,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, but you have a certain mindset, and you've built that mindset up over the years through all the volleyball practices, through your parents, telling, when you got knocked down to get back up and actually, don't let it beat you, don't let it defeat you.
Yeah.
And, you wind up, being as better, if not better than you were before. And
exactly.
moving forward. So you get through Brazil. Brazil is like a great experience. And then the pandemic hits.
The pandemic hits. I get deported from Brazil. Okay, I didn't truly get deported. I say deported, but it's basically what happened.
It's probably a good thing.
Yes, it was. It was.
Especially given everything that's going on down there now. The guy that runs Brazil right now is, he's not doing them any real favors right now.
No, he's in some tough water, for sure. And it's been, they're playing their playoffs this season, but for a while, my agent's Brazilian. His wife plays in the league this year. And for a while, it was like they didn't know if they were going to cancel again. They didn't know if they were going to keep it going. And so it was a huge thing because 2 years in a row canceling playoffs, that's where a lot of the money comes from sponsors and everything in the league. And so that was going to be a huge thing. But yeah, we found out last season, about a year ago, a little over a year ago now, we were in our film session, getting ready to walk on the court for our practice, and everyone's getting their shoes on, blah, blah, blah. And there's 4 matches being played that night. The first game was being played that night. We were playing 2 days later. And they're in warm-ups, everything on the court around the country. And they come out and they said, everything's being postponed for 15 days. What? Like, what? So people on the court for those matches literally get sent home, 15 days, pause. And so, okay, we're whatever. We go have a barbecue that night because we're like, all right, we're off for 15 days, not off, but like they're giving us 2 days off now.
It's not really happening. It's just a little pause. It's just a little virus. So we're going to be playing again.
Exactly. Because we were at that point, there was only, up until the day I left, there was only 25 reported cases in Brazil. And this is after Carnival and everything. So
reported cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
quite spread quite yet.
No. And so for us, it wasn't real. Like in Europe, in Italy, in Turkey, and all those places, like, okay, Turkey was still playing, Russia was still playing, we were still playing, but we were the only 3 leagues in the world still playing. And so we were just like, oh, I mean, we're on a different continent. Like it's in America, it's over in Europe, but we're fine. Like we're over here. It's okay. We're in South America. Everything's cool. And it's going to be a pause and we're going to keep playing. And then we have that barbecue that night. The next day go to the botanical gardens with my really good friend on the team. We have a day, we have lunch, blah, 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 whatever. Everything's normal for us. And there's hand sanitizer at restaurants. That's the only difference. And we're heading home and we get a message that says, from the owner that says, league canceled.
The end.
The end. Claire, Alejandra, you'll be on flights within either tonight or within the next 24 hours. What? So within a 48-hour time frame, my world had gone from playing the first round of one of the biggest playoffs in the world against the top team at the time to being on a break to you need to go home right now and pack up the last 8 months of your life in your suitcases and go home because otherwise you can't get home
in 48 hours. In less than 48 hours.
In less than 48 hours. And at that point, I'm like home. I'm trying to pack my stuff. There's a lot to deal with. I end up going to the emergency room that night before my flight the next day. And I was I didn't go that night, but I was up with food poisoning that whole night. Have to get rushed to the emergency room the next morning. They keep thinking I have COVID, and I'm like, no, I just can't stop throwing up. And basically give me an IV, give me medication, because I told them I can't fly. Like I couldn't eat anything solid for 15 hours. I couldn't drink water, anything. They give me some stuff to fly, get on my plane. Every flight after mine is canceled. Mine was the last flight to leave Brazil for the States.
Talk about luck.
Yeah, absolute. Just what a grind of a flight that was. I don't know how people who fly who get like nauseous on flights, because that was me for the 12 hours that I was going to Miami. But whew, we got out and we survived, and now we're here.
So, back in that Wayback Machine.
Uh-oh. Woo!
Je suis américain de chevaux 5 ans. Je jouais la dernière saison en Superliga brésilienne, mais je suis de Europe d'annoncer informe que je rejoindrai les RC Com cette saison. Hey guys, my name is Claire Felix. I'm 25 years old. I'm an American middle blocker. I'm super stoked to be back in Europe this season. I'm really looking forward to an amazing year and continuing the winning tradition at RC Con and to be part of such an incredible club. Until then, I know it's a really tough time for everyone around the world with everything that's going on with this pandemic and COVID-19. So I just wanted to send my love and prayers to everyone at RCCon in France and Europe and around the world. We're in this together. We're going to get through this, and I can't wait to meet all of you guys when all of this is done. So, à bientôt.
You weren't even expecting that one. That one your mother didn't give me.
Oh man, you did that to me yourself?
Yeah, I actually did that. I found that I don't just like throw people on and then basically just like start asking questions. I do some research, just gotta you gotta find out, things about people so that I know interesting things, so we could have a conversation.
Oh man, do you want to hear the funniest part about that whole entire video?
Of course.
Okay, so I'm in LA at the time because when they sent me back to the US from Brazil, I got sent to LA, not Colorado. And so I was in lockdown in LA with my grandma.
Right.
And all right, I'm in Los Angeles, you know what I mean? There's stuff that happens all the time. So the club asked me to film this video, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I thought it had to be done that day. So I go outside, I'm trying to get some good scenery, get the good tree. I just trimmed it. I'm going to try and do this cool video, speak a little French. And all of a sudden, that noise in the background, their police cars start flying down the street. The LAPD helicopter and SWAT copters are circling above the whole area because someone had gotten out of custody that was this dangerous person and was fully armed and was running along the streets within 3-5 mile radius of the house. And I was like, and I'm just looking up, just be quiet. I'm trying to film this in between each big circle they make so that the noise wasn't so bad. Oh my gosh. Horrible.
So we come full circle to Cannes. How did that actually come about?
So Cannes came about actually basically right when I got home last season. Not home, but back into the States. And the market opened up really early because no one really knew if we were going to have seasons. First of all, because so many people having to cancel, they lost money. Everyone lost money, sponsors, teams, funding. And without that, it's not like the States with, as you know, with the NBA, MLB, all of that, NFL.
No TV money.
Yeah. It's private sponsors, it's countries, it's basically trying to run a college program with just people donating, but to every sport and living on donations. And so I was at the time, I had just gotten home. I just gotten deported. My season had just been cut short. Obviously, I know that was the selfish way to be thinking because there's so many horrible things going on in the world. but at that same time, it was so real for me in that moment. Whereas other people who were playing pro that I knew had a month to process this already. They'd already been stateside. They'd already experienced it. And so I was like, my agent was like, hey, like, you got offers on the table, like, people, here's your blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wow, this is super early. When do I need to tell him by? Like, if I have interest? And he's like this week. And I was like,
What?
what are you talking about? Like, I'm still on jet lag. I sleep 15 hours a day. I don't know what you're talking about, basically. And this is mid-March, like, which is like unheard of for a regular season, no interruptions. To have like true, like, yes, we're finalizing things mid-March, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay, well, I want to know what's going on. I need to know what leagues are this, that, and the other thing. And this opportunity presented itself. And Cannes is a historical club. It's the winningest club in France and in Europe, really. I mean, they've won 2 Champions League titles. They have I forget how many cup titles and 21 championships in France. And like, no one can touch that. And so there's a winning tradition here, and it's an incredible club. And it was a really great opportunity that presented itself for me to come back to Europe and be able to play here. So once it came down to it, and I looked at all my opportunities and talked to my agent, talked to my family, what we thought the best next steps for my career were, this is where I found myself heading to, and almost heading to. We headed to Italy first this season and then came here.
Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got to get into shape. How am I going to do that? Hey, can you write me out a program?
Hey, Kev, I've just been eating Taco Express for the last 3 months. You think you could help me? I'm building a home gym. Tell me what to buy.
I'm building a home gym. Tell me what to buy.
Oh,
by the way, can you show me how to use it too? That's where having friends in high places and having a history. Your dad's my bond with your dad and your mother, actually, you benefited from that. So
I'm so grateful for them in this situation. No, I'm just kidding, all the time.
So then you got to get yourself back into shape. Well, I mean, yeah, that's quarantine. Actually, not everything was shut down in LA. So you literally couldn't go anywhere.
No, I was literally hauling. I did a yard demo for my grandma and hauled probably 3 tons of rock out of her yard and put it back in. And that was my workout. I was literally lifting rocks and buckets and wheelbarrows and that was my workout.
That's how Larry Bird wrecked his back. It's the thing that killed his career. He decided he was going to build a driveway for his parents' house, and actually did it himself. Guy with millions of dollars, and decided to build this driveway himself, and wrecked his back. True story. True story. He actually, that's from his mouth.
Oh, wow.
Actually, yeah. He it tore his back up, and it wasn't like a little short driveway. I think it was like 100 yards or something like that. Yeah, he killed himself doing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I hope it was worth it for him. Holy cow.
I guess so. So we got we're sitting there. We get ourselves in shape. We go over, and now we're playing. You guys have fans? No fans? Limited fans?
So we have gone through all of the phases. So basically we come over, we go to Italy, we have a mishap in Italy, someone gets COVID. I'm there less than 48 hours before we have our first positive COVID test. And we go immediately into lockdown in the middle of the country in Italy.
Well, like part of the reason why Italy got, why it got spread in Italy, they were saying when it first came out is that they think it originated at a soccer match.
Oh.
In the north of Italy. And from there, they traced like all of these like people that were at that soccer match all throughout the country. That's I remember Real Sports did a segment on that, the day that sports stood still. And it was like that was the day that like all the NBA and Major League Baseball, everybody canceled sports at the same time, almost like your guys in Brazil.
Yeah.
And they claimed it was from a soccer match in the northern part of Italy. So, and you guys were there with somebody that basically maybe contacted somebody that contacted somebody that contacted somebody. So
yeah.
So that actually, it can't be like, here you are in the south of France. It's beautiful, beautiful area. I love that place. I mean, from the little bit that we got to see, I mean, it was like, hey, I can actually come back here and like spend a week here, at least.
Oh, for sure.
And you guys are like on, I mean, are you restricted on where you can go? I mean, some of the pictures that you show on your Instagram, it seems like you guys are like, pretty much, have the run of the town.
So we don't at all, actually. When we first got back from Italy, everything was open. Stores, restaurants, everything, limited capacity, but you could eat with your friends, obviously masks. But like life was pretty normal here. And for me, it was the first time I had seen that because the whole time I was in the States, it was lockdown. And so it was great because we had a little freedom. Lasted 3 weeks, max. Everything got taken away again. Because as soon as the summer season ended and everyone started traveling back to where they were from, and weren't on vacation, everyone was bringing stuff everywhere. And France was the cause of it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So we got shut down really hard. Us, Paris, Marseille, Lyon, couple other places, but we were a hub. And so we played our first couple matches with limited fans. We played like a mock French Cup from the last season because it got canceled before.
Right.
And we had limited fans and it was great. And then the first match after that, we were allowed to have fans. And then after that, closed doors. Everyone, line drawn. We went into a lockdown. We had an 8 p.m. curfew. Every night we had to have a paper basically saying with us at all times, either on your phone or in person, saying, I'm going to work, I'm coming home, I'm going to the grocery store, I'm coming home, I'm going to physio, I'm coming home. And we couldn't travel farther than 1 kilometer from our house, which is not super far, for exercise or anything. And so I was literally like running up and down the street. I'd see the police officers, I'd run the other direction, see the other police officers, run back. Like we were just saying hi over and over again. And the league instituted a rule where we were getting tested every week, or you had to be tested 3 days before a match, 72 hours before a match. And we actually went into a 41-day break.
Wow.
Because not planned. The league went into 10-day break. But every team we matched up against had a positive COVID test. And so we weren't allowed to even go play. So we basically just trained for over a month with no matches.
That's why your season kind of drug on.
It was super rough. And then finding ways to put those matches back in along the way is super hard too, because you're managing European leagues, all this stuff for other teams. But yeah, lockdown was super strict. Like, I've had to show my passport more times than I have at customs. It's ridiculous. And we're just lucky enough now we're in a lockdown where every day at 7 p.m. during the week, you can go where you need to go. If it's grocery store, pharmacy, physio, work, if you're a necessary job. And we're considered a necessary job because we're government employees technically.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go 10 kilometers from our house for exercise and 30 kilometers to go to a grocery store. And my physio right now is in another city. And so I have a special paper that says I can go to that city for physio. But we're lucky enough to get to live by the sea. So every day I get to wake up and go to the beach if I really want to. And spend some time in the water, go for a swim, even though it's super cold.
So how much longer do you have before you're actually, you guys are done?
So we have about a month left. We have 5 matches. 5 matches, yeah, because we played last night. We won. Woo! Let's go. Really great win. Really great win. We needed it. 5 matches left. 2 at home, 3 away on the road. I get to go see the Eiffel Tower this next weekend, so I'm stoked. I've only ever seen it flying over, so seeing it in person will be pretty cool. Hopefully we get to drive a little closer, because I know Paris is on the same lockdown we are, so I know their rules are a little strict. And then yeah, we're reaching the end of the season, and as our season comes to the end, summer season, vacation season starts for them. And so this last lockdown, I think, is really like that last true, like, we're going to get rid of Corona in France so that we can have tourist season. So it's 4 weeks, and basically when we leave, everything reopens here for them to go ahead and have a summer season.
Nice.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Aww.
So, and your dad, he's even got UCLA. He's got a Bruins shirt on. You know he must love you.
Oh my goodness gracious. When I showed up with that shirt, it was like pulling teeth. But it's okay. We finally got to the point where we would wear powder blue on women's volleyball game day. And then, but never on football game day. If they corresponded, we were not wearing powder blue if SC was playing UCLA. And then by my senior year, he was wearing UCLA gear, and but he always had his SC watch on. So we called it a 50-50 tie. And we've got a house divided flag.
Don't forget the SC underwear.
Oh, you can never forget the SC jockstrap. That's just standard protocol.
There you go. So tell me about how much they mean to you, how much they've meant to you through your life.
Whew, I got to do this without crying, man. I just got teary-eyed. Yeah, why are you doing this to me? I mean, they're the most important people in my world. I think they're the best support system like anyone could ever ask for. And I think as we grow up, we take so much for granted. And having them at every game, having them travel to UCLA to see me play when I was in Colorado. I got stuff together. Like, it's one of the greatest feelings in the world. And them supporting me moving across the world. This is my 4th season being across the world, and 6,000 miles away for 9 months out of the year is a huge sacrifice for them. I know, but it's a huge sacrifice for me, not getting to see them.
You get to live, you get to live your dreams, and they get to live through your eyes.
Exactly. And that support and that ability to let me pursue my dreams, knowing that I can't do it there, I think is one of the greatest gifts like they could ever give me. But it's hard. Every day I'm not home.
So speaking of your dreams, what are your dreams? What do you want to do? And how much longer do you think do you want to play volleyball?
I think that's the big question right now for me.
I mean, we're all warriors, and we all play until they tell us we can't play anymore, and then we figure out a way to play rec league,
right?
Or do, something so we could get that feeling again.
I think.
What do you see yourself doing 10 years from now, 5 years from now?
I think 5 years is I'll be 31. Oof. And hey.
The old lady, I mean.
In the sport world, I mean, I'll have played competitive volleyball for 21 years. If I make it to 31, this is year 16 for me.
Technology is out there. You guys are like, don't even think about that. You're going to play for at least five, unless you lose it up here.
Yeah.
That's what will cause you to figure out that you need to do something else.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's one of those things where, like, as I do get older, I start thinking about like the things at home that like I can't get back. You know what I mean? Like, there's time. You never get time back. And so missing that with my family is a huge one. At the same time, like here, it's how long is my body going to hold up technology or not? Like, I want to one day be able to play with my kids in the yard without every time my knees feeling like they're going to snap in half, or my back not working right, or potentially having more shoulder issues or whatever it is. And not having my professional athlete career be the thing that limits me the rest of my life. But at the same time, like, knowing that I'm not ready to step away from the game. And I think that's the thing, like, I've always told my family is, they're like, oh, like, what do you think? When are you going to be done? Do you want to keep playing? Do you not want to keep playing? And I think it's one of those things where as an athlete, whether or not it's time to be done. And if you're not ready to be done, if you walk away too early, it'll be the biggest regret you live with.
Absolutely.
And I try to not live a life with regrets. Obviously, there's things you can always know you need to do differently or that you could have done better, but not to live with regrets. And like, at this point in my career, I know I'm not ready to leave yet, and I'm not done. And so for me, there's no question that I keep playing. But I know one day, whether it's 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 3, 4, there's going to come a day where I know. And when that happens, I'm going to have to step away, because I don't want to be that person who just tries to cling on to it past their time and goes back in the world of volleyball. If I'm playing, I want to be climbing and playing at the highest level I can be. And I never want to have to take that step back.
I mean, you have to spend some time taking care of your body.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. So are you able to do that to what extent with everything that you're going on? It sounds like you're just, do you guys have access to a gym? Do you have access to physio? Do you have access to, proper nutrition that basically instead of the hard baguettes and jelly? Believe me, I've had enough of those. We spent a whole week, and that was what we would have for breakfast every morning, them hard ass baguettes and jelly. And it was all cold. We stay at these little hostels, instead of like hotels to save the company money, and they would like bring out a platter of these freaking things. Oh, here's your breakfast. I'm like, where's the eggs at, man? Where's the sausage? And the tea. And we'd have tea, baguettes and tea. And then basically get in the car, drive off to the next town. So
oh man, you're telling me with that one. Foreign breakfast, American people watching this, I need them to appreciate American breakfast, American hot breakfast, some bacon, some sausage, some eggs, some toast that doesn't break your teeth, some fresh squeezed orange juice. Okay, you can get that here, but it's different.
Thick girl food.
Exactly. Trying to build athletes, not, I don't know what you get when you eat baguettes all day, but I'll tell you one thing. That is one thing I had to adjust to here was at first I was great because I hadn't discovered French bakeries. Then we got into like a little sprinkle of trouble there for a couple months. Through the holiday season was really bad.
Got a little bit of a sugar fix, huh?
That a fresh baguette every day that just came out of the oven. I mean, ooh, that's gonna do you dirty. A
little bit of creamery butter too.
Oh man, we struggled. We've learned, we've experienced, and now we don't need to experience all the time. We can indulge every once in a while, but the everyday was not good for me. Overall, we found a good system for our physio that works for us and allows us to get it more often. At the beginning, that was a little bit of a struggle. And so I was dealing with my body breaking down a little bit or a lot because I had those conversations early on in the summer about what I needed and what I expected, and was told that it wouldn't be an issue. And then I came here and it was a different scenario. And so when that happens, I mean, mentally it affects you because you're like, I'd already talked about this. So
yeah,
why am I not, you know what I mean? Like we discussed it, we agreed upon it. So now why is it not happening?
It's funny because one of my other kids he plays in the German first division, and they got no problems. They got their own like physio. They actually have their own gym. They actually have everything kind of laid out. They've got the chef basically that cooks their meals. All is all set up for them to basically, succeed. All they got to do is show up and perform.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing that you're at this team that's got all of this, this one of the preeminent teams, and they don't have this all like set up for you guys to basically for you to succeed.
Oh, without a doubt. I would say I'm surprised, but at the same time, it is still the difference in sport and the difference between men's and women's.
Yep. And it's tough when you don't, you're going through all this, you lose a lot of like revenue. You're searching for revenue,
Mhm.
to get all this stuff done. But yeah, you're right. There's definitely a difference between men's and women's. I mean, the NCAA was pretty much a microcosm of women's and men's sports in one ugly picture. So I hate to say it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that that picture is just a small glimpse at what it is like. You know what I mean? It's just the first time that it's been in a direct comparison standpoint that everyone was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this has been going on forever. You guys are just, you know what I mean? It's just being seen in a different light because of the true tournament to tournament comparison. And
It's just like police brutality on black men, and minorities, right?
Mhm.
Where you guys been? We've been living this all this time. I mean, there's just video evidence of it now, so it's a shame that it's like that, and it needs to change. So hopefully it will over time.
I hope so.
So you are actually it's been actually a very good conversation. I was expecting a good conversation. I was expecting it to flow pretty easily, and it actually did. I'm glad to see that you're doing really well.
Thanks. And thank you for having me. I mean, I was so excited when you asked. I was like, of course I'll talk to you.
Um,
Let's do it.
I try to talk to people that are doing, they're doing things that are, they're jobs that are regular people, but they're doing jobs that, not everybody does. So you get to see what their life's like. You get to see how they actually deal with things, how they actually got to where they are. I'm actually doing this with a millennial, but he's actually been sequestered. He works for a production company that does all of the polo matches, and this is polo season down in Wellington. So he's been working like 12-hour days and hasn't had a day off. So here we are. I'm solo trying to tread water, trying not to make myself look bad.
No, you're doing great. You're killing it.
So, so Claire, maybe when you get back to the States, if you, I need to make a trek out to the West Coast. So hopefully, I need to get my vaccination in here soon, since I'm an old man. So they'll allow me to travel. So, and I'll have to make a trip up to Colorado. I need to see your dad. Yeah, I need to see you.
My dad.
Yeah, well, everybody. I need to see everybody. So
No, without a doubt. You're more than welcome anytime, of course. You know that, your family. And we would love to have you. So I hope you come up because it would be great to see you.
I will definitely make that happen. So, and having said that, I think we're going to end this podcast. And you actually, it should be what? It's 9 o'clock. It's getting close to bedtime for you, isn't it?
Whew, it is. I got a training in the morning. Got to go lift some weights, get swole, get big. Not too big, but big. Just kidding.
Well, you get some sleep.
All right, I will. You have a great rest of your day.
I will. It's 4 o'clock. I have a training client who's already late. So
Ooh, busted.
yep, already. So
Thank you again.
have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.